Hello, everyone. Kim Victoria here, and we are running out of time on the hashtag ABC April 2025. And for today, I'm doing X, and X because it's a difficult word to apply to journals, I guess. It's a wildcard day. So as a wild card, I'm going back to E, envelopes, my envelopes experiment. And in envelopes experiment, what I did was I was inspired by Toni, Crafty by Toni, who was using paper hinges instead of sewing or any other method. She was gluing paper hinges. And what I did, and by all means, please go back and see that video. What I did was I used envelopes, junk mail envelopes, to create a bunch of pockets. And I've started the process of decorating here, and that's what I wanted to share today, is to decorate this journal, which right now is plain. It's more of a storage thing than a journal, actually. But as a storage thing, and I'll get to that because I was thinking about how I will use it. So I used the inside of some of the envelopes that have the security liner as the hinge and glued it to other junk mail envelopes so that I could create this whole journal of pockets, and it is held in place by one large envelope, which was an envelope that was previous from a previous need. So anyway, I have this structure, but I haven't done anything with it since the E day. And I've been very busy with all the other videos. So I decided to decorate it because I wanted this envelope that's on the outside to be stronger. So I went into my stash and I was looking at what I could do. And I have some paper, a paper pad that has some really pretty paper. I kind of looked at what I had and how do I want this to look. And so I have this paper pad and I'm going to put this on the cover. And it had some matching paper that was in these chevron stripes. So I decided I would cover the flaps with these stripes, and some of the flaps of the envelopes are straight across. So I have some different cuts depending on the shape of the envelope flap. And I have these ready to go. I went ahead and cut them so they would be ready to go. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the pockets. So meanwhile, I want to cover this, and I didn't cover it before I assembled all of this, which would have been easier, right? Needless to say. So what I wanted to do was figure out how I wanted to fold it, because I don't want to do any cutting until I figure out how I wanted to fold it. So this being a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I knew that my spine here is 1.5 inches, started from the center and went out 3/4 of an inch in both directions, which you can't really see there, but that's what I did. I know that my spine is 1.5 inches, so I went out 3/4 of an inch from the middle in both directions. So then I measured from here to here. Now, when it turns the corner, when the paper turns the corner, it actually uses more paper because, it's 1.5 inch spine, but as it turns, there's a little extra paper that needs to go around that edge. So I don't want to be too accurate to what the original envelope was using, and I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so I went out and did markings, and I also marked, I want to have a 1 inch fold up on the bottom, and then what's left over on the top, I will be cutting this and matching it with the flap of the top of both sides of this envelope top, which was one whole flap. If you watch the original video, it'll all make sense. At any rate, I'm going to have to cut into it so that I can cover this flap, and then these edges will roll over. So it's going to work. Measuring is really important in these situations, and also figuring out how you're going to do it step by step. So meanwhile, I have been cutting all of these papers, and now I'm ready to deal with covering the cover, right? All right. So the first thing I want to do, I decided what I first thing I want to do is fold up the bottom, and then I can cut off the excess and roll that over, and that's going to help me with knowing how much to fold over this way. So I'm going to do it one step at a time. And for that, I am going to use my scoreboard, and I'm going to score it turned around this way and see if I can be a little more, see how accurate I can be. So I don't want to fold it in the middle. I want to fold it 3/4 of an inch out from the middle so that it goes around the spine. And this is single-sided paper, so it's thin. I decided I didn't want to use a heavy cardstock. That would have just, it would have been a little more difficult to manipulate. So this is at 5 1/4 inches. So I'm going to go 5 1/4 inches from the opposite side. And that will give me 1.5 inches in the middle. And it's a little hard to see. Certainly on camera, it's hard to see. All right, so we're going to start there. And some of this is going to get cut. There's going to be some cuts on these two sides. So this is a great place to start. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold up 1 inch on the bottom. And that will inform me where I'm going to be cutting out the extra and folding. So these are my first folds, first cuts. Right? All right, so I've got this, and everything is too tight down here, so I'm going to have to cut some off. But that looks good, and that looks good. Okay, so I'm going to start by cutting out this little section right here. And I'm going to cut it on a slight angle. So when I bring it back up, yeah, I wish I could. Actually, I can. Ta-da! Silly me. I can just glue it on the inside here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out just another little piece of that pie. And let that fold be there because we're having a fold there that's giving this edge more strength. And yes, it's going to be glued to the spine of the envelope pockets, but we want it to have as much strength as possible. All right, so that's the only gluing I'm going to do at this moment. And as I said, you really want to think these things through before you take an action. Now, if this had been done on the envelope before I did all the interior, it would have been a pretty straightforward process, but that's okay. We can do this, right? All right, so I'm happy with how that's so far. That's looking good. And I want to finish the folds up here before I do any gluing. Yeah, because what's nice is now that pocket at the bottom, whoops, get that in there. I've got that flapped in there and I've got it flapped in there. So now that prevents it from going anywhere. So now I can kind of double check, and I had made a mark of where I was thinking the fold would be. And that's pretty darn close. It's probably can just be a fraction further out. But that gives me a very, very good visual of where I'm going with this. Okay. So where is that exactly? That is at 2 1/8. All right, here we go. I'm not pressing down very hard because I definitely could tear the paper, and we don't want to do that. Okay. So again, we're going to double check, make sure everything is working properly. Oh, well, it would help if I do this little bit of a trim. All right. You can't see the fold in the video, I'm sure, but it's there. All right, now I can double check and make sure everything is working. Put that there. Make sure it's in tight. Roll that over, roll that over. Yes. That's going to be pretty. All right. Well, I think it's gluing time. I'm just in here finagling just to make sure. Oh, right. Yeah, see, yeah, I was confusing myself, but that's going to be part of the flap, so this will be just fine. Yes. Okay. Yeah, spine first. And what do I want to use? I think I want to use a combination. I'll use a combination of the glue stick and the precision glue. Here it goes. Make sure I've got it right side up. Yes. And get it lined up with the flaps. Make sure everything is straight. The glue stick wrinkled the paper a bit, but it will reshrink itself. I just want to make sure it's adhered. And I don't mind if it has a little bit of crinkle in it. It's going to be a very nice utilitarian object, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, the one thing I do need to do is trim those corners. I just want to make sure I know where things are. So it's just going to be a little awkward. I'll go ahead and speed this up, but not too much. And then you can see what I'm doing without having to be totally bored. How's that sound? I'm going to trim this down a little bit because right now I have a side pocket here. So I'm just going to trim this just a little bit. Okay, so there's the cover is covered and the flaps are covered. And I've got like a little rough spot there. I'll have to do something with that. Now I went ahead and I cut all of these to just to be able to fold them over and get them ready to go on, but they're going to need a little adjustment because they are not absolutely exact. I want to glue them on the flaps first, and it's a little hard to see, but I'm going to have to trim off a little bit extra. And then I'm going to have to do something about this adhesive strip that's on each of the envelopes. So I'm going to have to do something with that. And I'm not going to do a whole lot else because I'm going to be using these envelopes as storage. And I've already figured out what I'm going to put in them. So let me go ahead and I'm going to glue all of these on and I'm going to trim off the excess. And then I'll come back, show you how that ended up, and we'll look at what else needs to be done. Well, this took quite some time to get everything glued down. I went with just a real simple elastic to hold it closed because I'm going to be filling this up with lots of things, which I'll show you in a minute. So it did come out really pretty, and it's going to be functional and fun to use, and it'll be something that can sit up on my shelf. So, instead of, I'm going to be putting stickers in it, primarily stickers, I think. And I'm not too sure what's going to go in this big, long, deep pocket, goes all the way down. It's just going to be one of those things I'll play with as I go. But I've got lots of tuck spots and places. So I've got lots of envelopes. I've got places over here. I mean, this thing really can fill up. And I glued down the flaps, and I just used masking tape to cover up the glue strip on the envelope flaps. And by putting an extra piece of paper and creasing it really well, these flaps tend to close more than they did before. So that's kind of nice. So that is what I have now. I have all of those, and they're all ready to get filled up. So let me go get my stickers, which are just kind of crammed into a drawer, and I'll fill it up and I'll show you what it looks like. And I decided not to ink edges. I like the colors. I like the simplicity. It's kind of a neat little book. And hinging, that's really neat. I appreciate learning that from Toni. So I'm going to fill this up and I'll be right back. Well, it's a good thing I decided I was going to just use a lightweight elastic because this isn't even all my stickers. I forgot I had set aside, there was a whole bunch of stickers. I got a couple of grabby boxes that came in with lots of stickers and some die cuts and things. And yeah, that drawer, there were things at the bottom, and I'm going like, I haven't looked at them in a few months. So I'll just find a place on the shelf where this can sit with an alligator mouth, and I will remember to look for the goodies that are in here in my projects coming up. So I really filled it up. I put some paper in here, and these are the library cards I created. And the little window pocket can hold some things, and this is some grabby things. So I kind of really stuffed it. So there's a lot of miscellaneous in the front part, and then I just have flower stickers in the back. And I divvied them up into colors. So lots of pretty flower stickers. I've used some of these, but I have to remember that I have them. So by making this, yeah, see in the windows. So by having something a little more visible, I need visibility with things that I want to use. And that's why I still use an old-fashioned paper calendar because I need to see. I don't like it hidden in a digital device because then I have to remember to turn on the digital device and the app in order to see my. Anyway, I can't help it. I come from that generation. Oh, goodness. I'm not used to using an app for everything. So that's okay. Anyway, this is just a little quickie because I had a couple of people request to know what I was going to do with that envelope experiment that I did. And this is what I did. And I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to put it on my bookshelf and notice it and use the goodies that are inside. So, all right, this was my Wildcard X day. And so this is the follow-up for the envelope day. So thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.